because you've been a lifesaver. Because again, to remind everybody, there's no cameras inside of the courtroom. And I was talking with somebody about it earlier today. It's just one of those cases because we're seeing it now from the reaction from people outside, from the reaction from people in the Twitter sphere and everywhere else, that a lot of people think justice was done. A lot of people think it wasn't. And a lot of people think that this was a miscarriage of justice and that he was railroaded and that race played an element in all of that. But if you weren't inside the courtroom, you would know differently. But we don't know because we had no cameras, but we have you to kind of helpfully navigate us through those waters as much as you can. And you've done an excellent job. So we appreciate you being back. Well, I mean, let's jump right into it. The verdict, the closing arguments. How should I start this? Let's start with closing arguments because I don't want to step over that. How did those play out? Because I know it's interesting that the judge allotted them each an amount of time, and the defense or the prosecution deferred and allowed the defense to go first. Tell us how that worked out.
Yeah, so the prosecution reserved their right to respond, allowing the defense to go up first. And you got to give me a moment here, Josh. I want to walk through some key moments from both of them because in your intro, they're talking about the reasons this self-defense claim didn't work. The prosecution actually outlined 4 reasons why it didn't work, and I'll go through those. But we'll start with the defense here. They led off, and I have notes here that I still have. They led off initially, their initial statement, pretty much saying Austin Metcalf had no legal right to use force to eject Karmelo from that tent. He had no right to put his hands on Karmelo because Karmelo was in a public place. That was the crux of their entire closing argument. And each side had 35 minutes each. But this was the beginning of the defenses. And just some more highlights from what they were talking about. They said it's a really important fact that you've heard that Karmelo was still seated. That was the defense's narrative about what went down, that Karmelo was seated. Austin Metcalf came up and that initial touch happened. He was standing. Karmelo was sitting down. They talked about, self-defense. That's the whole claim. They're saying, of course, you can't use self-defense too early, but you also can't use it too late because if you wait too late, then self-defense is meaningless. So they were just really...
I thought that was actually an interesting point. I mean, he's making the clever point that, like, listen, it's only self-defense. It doesn't really apply to this case, but it's only self-defense because he's the last man standing, right? If he hadn't used self-defense, then, they're trying to make them draw the conclusions. Things could have ended up very differently. Now that, again, I don't think that applies to this case, but it's a clever way of explaining self-defense.
Exactly. And Josh, the kicker to me, this is how they wrapped up. We've heard about the hand in the bag, the touch me and see what happens. That's the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle of this whole case.
Yeah.
It said top of the morning.
They addressed that, and he kind of did a demonstrative gesture. He was saying, if I have my hand in this bag, right, I repeatedly tell you, don't touch me. I tell you I have something in this bag. You call my bluff and think I'm bluffing. And then I say, touch me and see what happens. The defense attorney said that's a warning and not provocation. That's pretty much how they ended their closing argument. Now, time for and time for the prosecution to come up and respond.
Well, before we get to that, go ahead. How did that? What was the reaction in the courtroom? Did anybody react? Did the jurors? Are they taking strenuous notes? Is there any atmosphere?
They're just. It was everyone was just kind of staring and listening. It was one of those situations. It's as if you were kind of in like a college classroom where everyone's just listening, taking in what they're saying. There's no real visible reaction. Who knows what mental gymnastics they were thinking? We're not psychics, but they were taking it in. No real reaction from there. No reaction in the gallery either. Of course, I've said it many times here on the show that I'm sitting 2 rows behind the Metcalf family, and Hunter showed up for the first time in the courtroom.
Oh, wow.
During this trial, he was there. I forgot to mention that. But he was there. He showed some emotion later on. But as far as these closing arguments go, it's the prosecution's turn to respond to what they said there, to what the defense said. First line out of the prosecutor's mouth.
Don't worry. We won't be here Friday. Friday, we're going to loosen up, man. This what it is right now. YouTube, as y'all come in, I need y'all to hit the like button, man. Make sure you hit the likes on your way in or your way out. First of all, before we get started, let me go ahead and let you guys know that you are watching the RUMORNATI Network, and everything that we are watching, every video that we use is being viewed and watched under the Fair Use Act for education, entertainment, satirical, research, or commentary purposes only. The views and thoughts expressed in these videos do not necessarily represent the views and thoughts of the RUMORNATI Network, its annoying host, or its aggravating but so amazing chat. All right, now Welcome back to the Rumonati Network, the place where the conversations are real, the opinions are loud, and the chat is the most aggravating chat on the internet. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and get comfortable, because once you step into the Rumonati, you are officially part of the conversation. Now, listen, on this channel, we talk about everything the internet is buzzing about: hip-hop news, celebrity drama, viral moments, cultural debates, and the stories people are afraid to ask questions about. And the best part of this whole show is the chat, because the Rumonati chat is not quiet, it's not polite, and it's definitely not boring. It's just the most aggravating chat on the internet. Y'all never hold back your opinions. So if you're here right now, go ahead, wake the chat up, drop where you watching from, hit the like button. Let me see those opinions in the comments, because around here we don't just watch the news, we break it down, we question it, and sometimes we aggravate the entire internet while doing it. So buckle up, Rumonati, let's go, let's get into it. I see y'all in the chat already. I see Slim Jones, let's go. Miss Duval, let's go. Kia, let's go.
I thought this was very powerful for setting the precedent of their closing argument.
Hit the likes on your way in, YouTube. I know you guys are strong enough, powerful enough, great enough to hit the likes on your way in or out, regardless of what side of the coin you fall on, regardless of whether you like the decision of the case or not. Hit the like button, because nobody's on YouTube to go unseen, have their work unheard. Hit the like. Let's get us in the algorithm. Let's go.
Do not let them turn a threat into a warning. And he said it twice. Don't let them turn a threat into a warning. And this prosecutor has this like bellowing voice. So that kind of, echoed throughout the entire courtroom. And so, Josh, to the point that you made earlier, talking about why the self-defense did not work in this case, the prosecutor outlined 4 distinct reasons as to why self-defense didn't apply. So I'll walk through them and kind of give little anecdotes about each of them. The first one he talked about was provocation, the word provoke. And with that, he said, you don't get to provoke the altercation, and when someone touches you, you use deadly force. That was pretty simplistic when he was explaining that. He goes on to force disparity, just the different tides of force. He said, you can meet force with force, i.e. a shove with the shove.
Kia says Carter just gave $5 million and he's still going to jail. Miss Duval says, at Kia, so what is her money? Some of you never see $5 million, her business. Mel Gilham says, Kia, do you have a source on that Cardi don't know? Yeah, do you have a source?
You can meet deadly.
Because I haven't heard that news. Shout out to you, though, and thank you for the engagement. YouTube, I need you guys to hit the like, please. Run the likes up, whatever side of the coin you fall on, whether you like the decision or not. Just hit the like button. Please interact while you're here on YouTube. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to hit the like button, guys. Run it up, please.
Force with deadly force. Maybe if we both had knives, but you can't meet force, regular force, with deadly force, because it has to be proportional. You don't get to hurt somebody because they're bigger than you. And he said that because we know the defense has been going on about how the Metcalf boys were, 6'1", 215 or what have you. And Karmelo's kind of like 5'8", 5'9", 130, 140. So the defense's narrative was like these two kind of twin tower guys were, ganging up on the little guy. But with that, the point that the prosecution made, you don't get to hurt or kill somebody just because somebody's bigger than you and maybe talking trash at you. So that was the second point. Third point, reasonable belief. A belief that would be held by an ordinary or prudent person in the same situation.
Miss Duval say everybody hit the like. Racist, Christians, rage baiters, bigots, whatever your race, rage, hate, color, creed, hit the like button, fool.
Situation of the defendant. And then the prosecutor said any reasonable person would not have plunged a knife in Austin Metcalf's chest. And then, Josh, the last one, he talked about immediate necessity. And he asked the jury in the courtroom, where was the immediate necessity to plunge a knife into another unarmed man? And he made sure to emphasize the word unarmed, of course. He could provoke away all day because he had that knife and he was going to come out on top. This was murder. That was the whole shebang. So those 4 reasons there, Josh, why the prosecutor said self-defense did not apply. And I mean, clearly the jury took that in because they went back there and discussed, and they had an out with manslaughter. They had an out with that if they didn't agree on murder. But they agreed that this was intentional. They agreed that this was premeditated, even if it was only 5 seconds premeditated. He had a hand in the bag saying, presumably on the blade, now that he's a convicted murderer, touch me and see what happens. You had a hand on a blade, your hand in the bag, you're thinking about what you want to do with this, and then you did it. So that's where the jury went with that, and ultimately, sentenced him to 35 years.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear the prosecutor lay it out the way that you explained, I mean, first of all, that's excellent advocacy. It's breaking down complex kind of ideas, but making them very easy to wrap your head around and digest. But really, I mean, the facts of this case are so in support of the prosecution argument. I mean, this wasn't like dazzling lawyering on the part of the prosecution. This is a clear, when you break it down that simply, this is a clear case of murder, not self-defense. you know, you do not need a shove with a stab. It's like everybody can understand that. A child can understand that. You know, like this was not a case of somebody reasonably defending themselves, even if he felt threatened or intimidated or shoved around or whatever it was. He did not respond to that situation in a way that I think any reasonable jury would find was self-defense. And so then they're left with murder, which is interesting because in your explanation of the defense, it doesn't sound like they ever tried to make manslaughter out of this. They just were arguing for a flat out acquittal on self-defense.
Right. And you know, they did, I guess, successfully argue the manslaughter to be a lesser included, you know, which would have been lesser time. But the thing about it, Josh, you know, so the guilty verdict came back. And of course, there was a reaction with that, you know, emotional reaction on the Metcalf side, emotional reaction on the Anthony side, of course, as to be expected. So now we go into the punishment phase. You know, his mother gets up on the stand pleading for leniency. She was the only one they put on the witness stand during that punishment phase. And I'll tell you too, Josh, his face, you know, when he initially, you know, when the guilty verdict came down, he hung his head, and the way he was positioned in the courtroom, I can only see the back of him. And when they walked him out, you know, you've been remanded by the state, you're now in custody of the state. They walked him out for a few minutes before that punishment phase got underway. So I couldn't initially see his face until he walked back in to hear his crying mother on the stand beg for leniency. And he just looked so bewildered. Like, you could tell he was crying. His eyes were wide, his jaw just hanging open. And it's like, you know, I'm thinking, you know, maybe this is now extraordinarily real to him, because while it has been real, he's been out on bond. We have to remember that. So he's been at home, he's been around his family. I'm sure, you know, supporters and loved ones have been at his house seeing him. He's eating meals that he wants to eat. He's watching television, still kind of living somewhat of a normal life, even though, you know, he had an ankle monitor on. But now he's not going to be going back in that home for a very long time. So that was the reaction there. And the point I was getting at here, Josh, before they went to the sentencing phase, you know, they had some more closing arguments to go with that. And the defense brings up for the first time, which I feel like should have been, if they're going to bring this up now, they should have argued it throughout their entire case, this thing of sudden passion, pretty much implying that this happened, you know, in the moment, you know, tensions are rising, two frustrated teens, and then stuck them. You know, not to say, you know, that he's going to get an acquittal for that, but sudden passion would have taken the sentencing down to 2 to 20 years versus the murder charge with 5 to 99 years. But I'm just sitting there thinking, why didn't you bring this up in the beginning and kind of argue around that, you know, make a narrative around that instead of a full acquittal, and maybe, you know, he had gotten 10 or 11 years versus 35.
I wonder if when the dust settles on this, I wonder if this family and this kid was I'm trying to find a way of doing this because I don't want to throw people under the bus, but it sounds to me like someone had got in their ear and convinced them that they had a stronger case than they actually did. Because to me, this is a case that your attorneys should have been on bended knee begging for some sort of a deal on this thing, because this is just such a clear-cut case that you're not going to win on self-defense here. But his reaction and the family's reaction, I almost feel like somebody had been telling them, it's in the bag. Don't worry, this is self-defense.
And on that topic of a deal, Josh, Monday, I believe I was on Monday. Did we talk about how there was that hour and 45 minute? And you know, that was when the speculation, we're sitting there thinking about, are they brokering a last minute deal? You know, that was about, and then of course it was just the defense resting. But to your point, the facts of the case are just the facts, and it seemed like these facts were astronomically insurmountable. Like you can't get over them. So I mean, I'm agreeing with you. It seems like someone should have said, and you know, like I was saying earlier, these lawyers are supposed to be high profile lawyers down here who have been very experienced. I'm just wondering why that wasn't the case here. But like, you know, somebody may have gotten in their ear, allowed them to think that. So I don't know.
Well, and it goes to your point that you were making about why didn't they argue this sudden passion, or why didn't they argue towards a manslaughter or anything in closing? Because if you've been telling your client the whole time, I'm going to get you acquitted on self-defense, you don't all of a sudden start hedging your bets and closing arguments. But I feel like a more realistic approach to this case, if you couldn't get
it says on bond, I would have been in Russia.
Deal would be, you want to say self-defense.
YouTube, we should be at least 10 likes now. Everybody get the likes up, please. No matter what side of the coin you fall on, hit the like button. Run the likes up, guys. We should be at least 10 likes now. At least 160 people in here. We have 6 likes. Let's get the likes up, please. Come on, guys. It doesn't cost you nothing to hit the like button. If you're going to be on YouTube, at least interact. And if you're at work and you give me that excuse that, oh, what if some people are at work? How did you have the time to type that then? How did you doom scroll and end up here? if you were at work and so busy. Hit the damn like button.
But then you want to say, and ladies and gentlemen, if that is something that you believe doesn't exist here, then at the very most, what you're looking at is a manslaughter or something. But they didn't do any of that, right?
No. I mean, that was. It just seems like that's where the argument should have been. Yeah. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, the facts are the facts. They have the body cam of the young man saying, "I stabbed him. I'm not alleged. I did it." I mean, so that alone to me it doesn't sound like a full acquittal, because we have a dead child on the other side. I mean, there's you have you admitting it to it in moments after it happened. So
listen, if Karmelo Anthony showed up with,
we need to get the likes up. We need to get the likes up. We need to share the stream, guys. Come on, it doesn't cost you anything, YouTube. Unless you're paying for a subscription or YouTube Premium, it doesn't cost you anything to watch YouTube for free. The least you could do is hit the like button, guys. Let's get the likes up, guys. Let's get the 10 likes. Let's get the 10 likes. It shouldn't be this difficult to interact on a free platform. Let's get the 10 likes, guys. Or let's get the concurrent viewers down. One or the other. Let's get the likes up, or let's get the concurrent viewers down. Streaming live from a tent in the woods. This is the RUMORNATI Network. Let's get the likes up, or let's get the concurrent viewers down. No, we don't earn likes. We earn money. You don't have to like. You can also leave. No, never. We don't view bot over here, buddy. Let's get the concurrent viewers down. If we can't get the likes up, let's get the concurrent viewers down. We had 10 likes. We should be at 15 now. It took too long to get the 10 likes. I had to ask can we get the 15 likes, or let's get the concurrent viewers down? Plain and simple. It's just that simple. Karmelo Anthony's parents speak out. Did you guys see that Karmelo Anthony's parents had spoke out as well? Let's get those concurrent viewers down, guys. Let's leave. Let's leave up. Get up out of here. Let's leave. If we're not going to hit the like button, let's leave. Let's get the concurrent viewers down. Yes, this is that kind of spot. This is that kind of place. Yes. If we aren't going to get the numbers up and interact, let's get the concurrent viewers down. Let's run those numbers down. To the great mods I promise tomorrow is going to be a lot more lighthearted. Tomorrow will be a lot more lighthearted. Lighthearted. I promise you guys. No, sir. I don't need you here. Lord Alcatraz says that's why he's doing 35 years also, because he was a youth at the time in Texas. Youth can get life, 40 years is max. Pest, is that Pest? F400? The dude's just another wannabe gangster. He deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison. Lord Alcatraz says, show that picture of Karmelo crying. We can show pictures of a lot of people in this case crying. That's not what we're here to do. It's not here to pick. It's about conversation. We're not here to pick, and you may be, but that's not what we're here to do. Because we can show pictures of both sides shedding tears, right? I don't think either one of them is good. It's a loss on both ends. This is a terrible outcome for both families. I'm not happy about this outcome. I see some of you people are happy that there's a loss on one end. I understand being upset about the loss of life, but I see people happy and celebrating of another family losing this child. When I look at it like it's a loss on both ends, nobody wins here. You know, I do understand the atmosphere. I do understand the climate. I do understand that racial tensions are high. I do understand that this is America right now seems to be a stick of dynamite with a short wick and a flame right on the edge of it. I understand that. That don't mean I gotta let all you haters and bigots and racists harden my heart. Am I foolish? No. Do I know what the hell goes on? Do I know that you can be standing right next to me and in the store, scared to say something to me, but then get online and spew a bunch of racial slurs to me online, and I know that might be the same person that I was just in the store with that was scared to look in my face? I understand that. I do understand that. But I open the doors to the trolls. You're just gonna be respectful when you spew your hatred. Just do it respectfully. Have some kind of class and some sort of dignity with how you present yourself. And yeah, we'll let you get off. Because I know you're not going to do it in person. But anyway. Trolls Nation 1008 says, when killed Mr. Wright and chase him down. What? When killed Mr. Wright and chase him down, they said it was self-defense, which ain't right. If it was the other way around, I don't know what the hell. Mods. Maintain your composure, guys. I ask y'all just one more day. This is it. Tomorrow will be a lot more lighthearted. I promise. Tomorrow, Friday, will be a lot more lighthearted. It won't be such a touchy subject. I see it. I see it, Marge. I know what's going on. I see it. Sick Freak is home. Lord Alcatraz, have you hit the like button? Roger Conrad, have you hit the like button? Gator Doc, hit the like button. You guys are welcome to express your opinions. This is not an echo chamber. I just ask that you be respectful with how you address it. Don't disrespect anybody's race, religion, sexuality. Don't call anybody out of their name to a point, you know. Give the same respect that you expect. Don't be small brain. Don't be a Neanderthal. Don't be a caveman. I'm sure everybody here has some sort of discipline that when they're out in the world amongst people, not online, when they're out in the world physically, you guys, I know you're not conducting yourself with the same manner verbally as you're showing here online. Your feelings that you are expressing online through typing and text, you're not expressing those same sentiments verbally in person when you're surrounded by people physically, especially people of different race and ethnicities. So I understand trolls, but while you're here, can you please at least hit the like button? While you use this time to let your cowardice, hateful thoughts spew, could you at least hit the like button? That's the least you can do.
Now, I have trouble telling the story.
Franklin McCallie was born in the segregated South as a white privileged boy. McCallie grew up ignorant and deeply bigoted. Why couldn't he tell his parents that? Because you're teaching hate in the home? Macaulay hit a turning point in 1961. He begrudgingly attended a church meeting between his college and black students from another college. John was the black students' leader.
Let me ask you something. How come black troops in World War II fought so miserably? They surrendered.
That marked the start of Macaulay's transformation. Today, the boy who was afraid to sit next to a black woman now works to bring whites and blacks together. Where does y'all hate come from? Hate is a taught behavior. Hate is a learned and taught behavior. Hate is a choice. Hate is a choice, man.
Explains.
Hello. Stop it.
Reddy Weldon is helping his best friend, Jackson Rosebush, pass the time as they wait for Jackson's haircut. The Louisville, Kentucky preschoolers are a ball of energy.
Reddy's cute.
Today, Jackson has a particular cut in mind.
How are you getting your hair done today?
Like Reddy?
And the transformation begins.
You're gonna be bald.
It's all part of the boys' master plan to trick their teacher.
Jackson's me and I'm Jackson. And Jackson's me.
They hope their teacher won't be able to tell them apart because they'll have the same haircut. Jackson filled his mother in on the prank.
He was like, yeah, so we can trick the teacher because we'll look just alike. No, she won't be able to tell the difference between the two of us. I was like, okay. Again, I know what Reddy looks like, so that made me chuckle.
The boys completely ignoring the obvious, their race. Jackson's mother posted her son's plan on Facebook to a few hundred friends, and it took off, shared thousands of times around the world.
I'm glad that people can see, what little kids see. I think you look like that guy.
Can I?
The boys are getting a real kick out of the whole thing, but it's a much deeper meaning for their families. Reddy was adopted from the Congo, and although he may look different from his parents, they've taught him to love everyone the same.
It's really cool to see that move on from our family right into his relationships with his friends. And there's an innocence that children have that sometimes we lose. And so if we could get some of that back.
This y'all problem right here. This is y'all problem right here. This is y'all problem. We need to get back to this. I ain't gonna lie. Are we too far gone for this as adults? Are we as adults too far gone for this? Do we know too much? Have we experienced too much negativity from, just think about this. How much negativity have you actually experienced firsthand from the other race? Fuck your fake fatigue. Forget your small Neanderthal mind, flock mentality, echo chamber thought process. You're just going along with what everybody else or what you think everybody else is saying. Slow down and ask yourself, how many actual bad occurrences have you had with someone of the other race? And is it enough to hate the other ethnicity or race in its entirety? Has your one or two bad experiences been enough to hate the other race or ethnicity in its entirety? Now ask yourself how many times somebody that has the same skin complexion as you, black, white, or other, that shares the same skin complexion as you has done you wrong. Huh? Why do y'all hate so much? Why y'all got so much hate? Why do y'all look to go into these social media forums and in these chat rooms? You're not walking around like this in your physical form. You're not expressing that same hatred in the physical. You're not putting your jobs on the line. You're not risking losing friendships and relationships because of your feelings. You're taking the coward way and expressing it in forums and behind secret usernames. If you really feel like that, if your hate is really that deep rooted, be willing to lose your job for it. Go on social media and say it with your plain face, under your name, on your account. I don't hate y'all, bro. I don't hate nobody who feels differently about this case. Just because this case involves a black man and a white man, or two kids, a black kid and a white kid, and it came to a tragic end, to me, this is a loss for both. This shit's sad. And just to see, do I understand the climate? Yes. Do I understand racial tension? Yes. Am I looking for a utopia? No. Am I hopeful for that? Maybe. Do I see it happening? No. But the thing is, I'm just saying how you guys are so easily to spew hate, how you walk around. Where did all this bravery for this division come from? Where did all of the enthusiasm for this division come from when everybody been so quiet and everybody been so disciplined with their hate and their racism as of lately, right? Other than Twitter, where once again, you won't attach your name to it. You can say, yeah, you have a mask on, but I'm not spewing hate. You're spewing the hate and then pretending, running around gallivanting as if in your normal day-to-day life, as if that you're not the one online saying those hateful, disgusting things. Really a coward act. You're really a coward. But I just asked, where does it come from? Because have you actually had, before you type that negative comment, have you actually had a bad experience with a black person or a white person or an Asian person, whoever you're choosing to hate? Have you actually had a bad experience with them in life? Or are you just going off what you see other people that look like you say? That goes for anybody, black, white, and different. You can want what you want for your people without hating other people. You could be pro-black and not be racist or prejudiced. You could be pro-white and not be racist or prejudiced. You could be pro-Latino, pro-Asian, pro-whatever and not be racist or prejudiced. You could just want what's best for your people or fair treatment or equality for your people or whatever. Yes, you can do that and want that and still not be racist. I'm not asking anybody to be a sympathizer. I'm not asking anybody to put down their paranoia or their inhibitions or whatever. I'm just asking you to not be so quick to spew the hate. That's it. Because nobody's walking around saying what they're saying online in person. Where does this false sense of bravery and security come from that make you think that it's okay to speak like this online? I prefer you to do it in person. I say it all the time. I respect a skinhead more than a Klan member. A skinhead let it be known where they stand at. Do I like their ideology? No. But at least they let it be known. A Klan member is going to hide and smile in your face while they're managing a grocery store, managing a bank branch, being the sheriff of the town, of the local police in town, you know? But they hide the hatred. I'd rather you be blatant with it. But unfortunately, we have to get back to this topic that is very divisive. Very divisive. We're going to run through it. We're not going to be here long. We've been here 45 minutes already. We're going to get through this and get the hell up out of here. I'm glad them numbers went down because I see what y'all wanted. When I had the hateful shit on the screen, when everybody thought it was about to be some racist, some hate, they thought I was about to go back and forth with them. Oh, they stayed. Look at the numbers now. We was at almost 200. We at 58 now. You see how wicked the hearts of some people are, bro? When you ask questions or you start talking about anything close to positive, they get the fuck up out of here. When they thought this was going to be a rage baiting, race grifting, racially biased, hateful atmosphere, they were piled in and ready. They were piled in here and ready. But as soon as we ask a question about love and understanding and the actual origin of your hate, have you had any bad experiences with the people that you hate so much? The numbers drop drastically. Look at that. No, Wicker ain't saying nothing racist, Miss Duval. Ran them right up out, got all the hatred right up out of here. Of course, there's still going to be some lingering and trying to get the message out that they feel is important, which is hatred. That's cool. You're going to do it respectfully, though, at least in this atmosphere. All right, now let's go ahead and get to the BS, right? The thing that's causing all the, it's bringing the hate to rise to the top. No, bro, it's not a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale. It's reality, bro. The only fairy tale is hoping for a utopia. I never said I hoped for a utopia. I simply posed the question, what is the origin of the hatred that they spew? And the question ain't to you. The question is to the people coming in automatically assuming that everybody black feels the same way, or that everybody white feels the same way, or that everybody Latino feels the same way, or that everybody Asian feels the same way. And feels, put acts next to that. Put acts, put reacts. Everything else falls under that category as well. All of one race is not good or bad. All of one ethnicity is not good or bad. I'm not foolish. I'm not foolish. I just use love to run the hate out. I just use people showing love and understanding and care and compassion for each other. I just use that to get the hatred out, to show people how evil their hearts really are. Look how the numbers dwindle. I love it. Now we can move on with the case. Now we can move on with the topic. Excuse me, I said the case. The topic. The case has already been wrapped up. All right, guys. Karmelo Anthony's mother and father spoke out in a very brief interview. I'm sure it's longer than this. I'm sure there's some. I don't know. This is the clip that's put out by CBS Mornings, and we're going to get into it, guys. Let's go.
Tuesday, a jury found 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony guilty of murdering 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. His lawyers plan to appeal. They say prosecutors wrongly excluded black people from the jury. Anthony's parents spoke with Jonah Kaplan about their son, the trial, and their message to the Metcalf family.
My son didn't intend to hurt anyone. My son was defending himself.
It took less than 3 hours for a jury to reject 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony's claims of self-defense in the stabbing death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Prosecutors argued Anthony intentionally killed Metcalf after being taunted and shoved by Metcalf and his teammates at a high school track meet.
Take us inside that courtroom. What stuck out to you?
What stuck out to me, number one, was the all-white jury. But I was trying to be, all right, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, the truth is on our side.
At the sentencing hearing, the defense called only one witness on Anthony's behalf, his mother, Kayla Hayes.
What did you tell the jury?
To have mercy on my son.
What do you say to his grieving family?
It's unfortunate to where nobody wins. We've all been hurt by this. Everybody.
That poor boy is fixing to experience a life that I would not wish upon anyone.
Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff, called Anthony's sentencing bittersweet.
What it boils down to for me is this. Austin will never walk through that door again and never give me a hug.
The case drew national attention, prompting protests in support of both teens. And both families involved say they've received threats.
This morning, I've had multiple emails, texts, threatening me, calling me all sorts of names.
During our interview, the Anthonys made a point to call back one man they say continues to dox them.
Why you calling me, man?
To make fun of you.
Both families urge supporters to tame their emotions.
I forgave him. But people need to understand about forgiveness. Forgiveness was not for him. Forgiveness was for me, so I don't carry the rage, the hate, and that around. It will eat me up like cancer.
At the end of the day, there's nothing we can say or do for people to accept us.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Jonah Kaplan in McKinney, Texas.
This morning, we have an exclusive interview with the parents of a Texas teenager sentenced this week to 35 years in prison for killing a fellow high school athlete. On Tuesday, a jury found 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony guilty of murdering 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. His lawyers plan to appeal. They say prosecutors wrongly excluded black people from the jury. Anthony's parents spoke with Jonah Kaplan about their son, the trial, and their message to the Metcalf family.
My son didn't intend to hurt anyone. My son was defending himself.
It took less than 3 hours.
All right, Rumonati fam, we are about to, there's about to be some opposing thoughts, right? There are about to be some opposing thoughts. I ask everybody to maintain their class and their dignity when they present whatever side of the coin that they fall on. When you present your opinions, I just ask that you maintain some type of respect for yourself, first and foremost, some type of class and some type of self-dignity. Don't be a Neanderthal. Don't be a caveman and result to personal digs. Don't try to classify the entirety of one race based off of what you see or hear. And just buckle your seatbelts, guys. There's many different opinions, and we're going to get into some of them. All right? No, you can get out of here. Nobody said respect. Who? Oh, Mike Hawk must speak with a lisp. Mike Hawk, you must speak with a lisp. If you take offense to anything I said, that means you put the shoes on. I didn't say one race. I didn't specify a race or ethnicity as a caveman. It was a mindset or a lack of brain power. So if you decided to put those shoes on and stake claim to being the caveman that I was mentioning, that's your personal feelings, sir. Oh, Mike Hawk, we're going to go ahead and get you out of here. You talk with a lisp, which is no problem. But you just mentioned something. We're going to get you out of here, brother. Have a great one. We appreciate you. Regardless, you can be as ignorant as you want. Jack Fullerton says someone carrying a knife to a school event is controlled by society, not family-oriented. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Inevitable says 35 years with an exclamation mark. Wicker Holmes says, let's be real. If any kid brought a gun to a school to defend himself, he would be guilty automatically. Same with knives. Exed says, I said his parents and lawyers failed him badly. Rodney Culver says, evil has to be dealt with. Ahmad Belton says, my wisdom tells me who touched who first, who assaulted who first. Exed says, as Rodney, you got some real gangsters out there to worry about. Thurman Lee Highsmith says, yet you still feel safe with George Zimmerman and Kyle Rittenhouse walking around. 88 Oaks says he killed another. Rodney Culver says, I feel safe now that he's going to prison. That one little old guy out here in this world full of billions of people made you feel unsafe? Sounds like you have bigger issues, brother. Exed says that Jack Fullerton, Mr. Metcalf didn't raise them boys because he was in prison. So let's get that straight first. Nikki Baby says the rules are always changing. Jack Fullerton says Daddy Metcalf killed someone with the question mark. Rodney Culver says just because someone is helping doesn't mean they're helping you. Inevitable says 13% of wizards cast 50% of the spells. I had a statistical post. I had a post with statistics lined up in it. Okay. I lost it. We're going to move on. I'll let you have that one, Inevitable, for now.
Might have seen that Karmelo Anthony was sentenced to 35 years. I want to get your reaction to the trial and the verdict.
My heart breaks for so many reasons. And so I was just speaking to a student that is shadowing me who wants to be a public defender. And so it takes me back to what actually made me decide to get into this legislative work in the first place, because I know that our systems are broken. And what we saw with that verdict is the evidence of a broken system. Now listen, from everything that I understand, which I wasn't at the trial because obviously I got a day job, but it's my understanding that Karmelo ended up stabbing, puncturing, I don't know what this tool was that they talk about, knife, or some referred to it as a tool. He ended up hitting Austin one time, and it was about where he hit him. One time, 2 inches This wasn't someone who said, hey, let me stab you 5, 6, 7 times. And so when you're looking at the punishment range, there's a reason in Texas that it goes from 5 to 99 or life, because you are looking at how intentional, like how bad was this? 35 years for a kid who had decided to go under a tent that was not his team's tent as it was raining, and simply didn't want to be put out in the rain by some random kid that he didn't know who was larger than him. Listen, a lot of people don't know what it is to live as a black person in this country, but just like you can give the benefit of the doubt to so many police officers when they go out and they shoot some black unarmed person, even though they are trained, the fact that there was little to no mercy seen or humanity seen when this black boy said that I was scared, or the fact that honestly anybody else who did something with such a small object, all I know is that it wasn't considered unlawful carrying of a weapon because the blade was not long enough, that they wouldn't even say, well, maybe this was more so something that looked like manslaughter.
Well, some people might say, why are you even bringing a knife like that to a track meet?
Yeah, people may say that, but walk a day in my shoes and then respond. Because we as black folks say, why is it that people need long armed guns when we are going out and having a First Amendment protest? But people say that's their right. They are allowed to do that. And again, it wasn't against the law for him to have it. It may have been prohibited by school rules, which he wasn't at his school at the time, but it definitely was not against the law.
So you think race played a role in the verdict?
Oh my God. I know Collin County. So absolutely. Collin County is right north of Dallas County. And I can tell you that I have had cases that I felt like played out differently because of the counties that they were in. And unfortunately, that was not the county for a black boy.
So if this were a white boy in his exact same position, you don't think he'd get a 35-year sentence?
I would guarantee you it wouldn't have happened. I don't even know if he would have been convicted, because if a white boy would have said that they were afraid of a black boy, something tells me that that jury that didn't have any black people on it, they would have believed him in his fear.
I told you guys, opposing views.
Sentence of up to 20 years in prison, but it took them less than 3 hours to agree on the first-degree murder conviction. A conviction that could have actually carried a maximum sentence of 99 years, but they decided on 35. And while he was otherwise tried as an adult, the death penalty hadn't been considered since Anthony was a minor at the time of Metcalf's death. But also the fact that it's only prison time is something that many on the right have taken issue with people like Congressman Randy Fine, MAGA influencer Matt Walsh, alleged human trafficker Tristan Tate, and far-right commentator Nick Fuentes, all among those having called for Anthony's life to be ended. With Tate saying that it should be done by firing squad and televised live, while Fuentes, he's backed the idea of a public execution, and also you have people pointing out how he once said on his show,
this young man who killed a beautiful young white person who was productive and was going to contribute to society, he should be made an example of by the law. You have this persistent problem of brutality from blacks, brutal, merciless, senseless violence from adolescent black men. I think there has to be something done about it. We should deliver the death penalty in equal measure to the killer. And in order to send that message, we have to do it in public.
And while Fuentes, he gets a ton of views saying stuff like this, he is by no means the only one that's been emphasizing that this was a case of a black person killing a white person. For just a couple of weeks after Metcalf's death, you had Jake Lang, a pardoned January 6th rioter and the leader of a group called Protect White America. He organized a small demonstration at the stadium, which of course then drew counter-protesters, with actually Metcalf's father being among those denouncing the protest. And then connected to all that, Anthony's family, they've been harassed, doxxed, and swatted, as well as falsely accused of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars raised for legal fees on a new house and a car. And you have people like far-right
falsely accused
being among those denouncing the protest. And then connected to all that, Anthony's family, they've been harassed, doxxed, and swatted, as well as falsely accused of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars raised for legal fees on a new house and a car. And you have people like far-right influencer Benny Johnson actually arguing that Anthony's parents, they should go to prison too. And then also the judge who lowered Anthony's bond to $250,000, allowing him to go free while awaiting trial, he was also the target of attacks. And then last week, right, Jake Lang, he was back outside of the courthouse shouting that Anthony should be lynched. And then also on the flip side, you had supporters of Anthony gathering and sometimes clashing with the other group, some shouting free Karmelo. So also with this, I should note that there are
When did they clash now? Come on, bro.
Those on the left who aren't so much in the free Karmelo camp, right? It hasn't been a pure left versus right situation. Also, one of the major criticisms that we've seen is that none of the jurors in this case were black. With that said, you have a number of experts saying there's no sign that that was deliberate and the jury was otherwise fairly diverse. But then still, you have plenty saying that is an issue, reporting to research that's shown that public perceptions of violence can change depending on
the jury was not 100% white. But it is true that there was no one black on the jury, but it was not 100% white.
The race of the victim and offender. And actually, historically, in the US, whether or not race is a factor in an alleged crime, many say that it's often been a factor in the outcome of a trial, especially if the suspect is black and the victim's white. And so you've seen some arguing that the trial and the outcome may have looked very different if the roles were reversed. And to make their point, some have pointed to comparisons of other high-profile cases where race became a flashpoint. Or many pointing to the situation with George Zimmerman, for example, acquitted of second-degree murder and manslaughter after shooting and killing 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, arguing self-defense. But then also with this, you have some folks on the right bringing up an example that they say proves their point about this being part of a wider issue about anti-white violence. Or with former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, comparing the Metcalf case to that of Irina Zarutska. She's a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee who was fatally stabbed in North Carolina last August. And in that instance, the man that killed her, he was found incompetent to stand trial for now, which Greene basically argued is letting him off easy. And then, going back to Fuentes, you had him bringing up that fatal stabbing of Henry Novak in the UK that we've been talking about, writing on Twitter. He was clearly motivated by nothing other than pure racial hatred for white men, just like the Sikh killer in the UK, saying the courts need to make an example out of these pieces of shit to send a message that this evil won't be tolerated. And also the outrage around Novak's killing has contributed to the growing anger around another terrible murder in Belfast. Right, we talked about that on yesterday's show, but since then, the rage has ballooned into protests and massive riots where you've had masked men setting cars and homes on fire as families fled for safety. And this after won't be tolerated. And also the outrage.
Let me show some love to the chat real quick, man. Unfortunate event, guys. Unfortunate event. Tragedy on both ends, if you ask me. Foolish. I wish both kids didn't go as far as they did, man. I wish both kids didn't go as far as they did. Let me show some love to the chat right now. At number 1 spot, we got Corky. Number 2, we got Xed. Number 3, we got Patrick Chavez. Number 4, we got Wicker Home. Number 5, we got Curtis. Is that Cree? Number 6, we got Jack Fullerton. Number 7, we got Miss Vol. Number 8, we got Angie. Number 9, we got T Latte. Number 10, we got Blue Ranger. Shout out to you guys. Thank y'all for keeping that chat active. Thank y'all for keeping that chat active. Let's continue to run the likes up, please. We're not going to be here long today, right? We're not going to be here long today. Yesterday, we did a 4-hour. The day before that, we did I don't know how long. We won't be here long today, guys, but what we will do is try to have an okay time in the meantime. Try to learn something. Try to get enlightened. Try to just be better than we were yesterday. This ain't a hate stream. This isn't a one-sided stream. Of course, I have my personal thoughts, but as I do open my platform and the floor up for opposing thought, yes, you can come and express yourself here, but you're going to do it in a respectful manner. I prefer you to come up on the Discord and we can have the conversation verbally, but you can continue to run the chat up and help us get in the algorithm as well. Hit the like button, share the stream. Like I said, to anybody who has opposing thought, go ahead and express yourself, but please do it with some class and some dignity and some self-respect. You don't have to respect me. You may be upset that I even exist, that I even breathe the same air as you. But on this platform over here, on this channel, if you're going to express that hatred, you're going to have to find a classy way to do it. You're going to have to find a creative, witty, intelligent way to do it. You're not going to be able to just spew the N-word with the hard ER or say something like blackie or fatigue and think that that's going to work. All that's going to do is get you blocked. It won't get you noticed. It won't get your chat read, nothing. It's just going to get you reported, screenshotted, reported, and blocked. That's it. That's the process. You get screenshotted, you get reported to YouTube to show that there's proof, and then you get blocked from this channel. You don't get any acknowledgement. It won't be read off. It's water on a duck's back. It doesn't affect me. You guys have been using the same run-of-the-mill, cookie-cutter racial slurs over and over for years. How many times can you call a fat person fat until it has no effect? So you keep saying the same shit. Blackie. That's it. You fucking idiot. That's all you got? You're not creative enough. After all this time, you're not creative enough to come up with something else? Anyway. Hey, Blue Ranger. SMD, bro.
Was for a jury to reject 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony's claims of self-defense.
With a broken nose and a bloodied face, and we'd be talking a totally different thing. But this is
totally different.
This is not that at all. I mean, he is untouched practically, and he stabbed another young man. And again, I'm not trying to say I think it's a manslaughter. I'm just trying to say that as defense attorneys, I can't imagine them not arguing that. I think the jury got it right. I think it is a murder case, and that's awful to look at this and go, this young man, I don't think this young man set out that day to murder anyone, but I do think when you look at his actions and what took place in those moments, that is a murder case. Really just tragic all around. I want to highlight some stuff from the sentencing. His mother, Karmelo's mother, took the stand and made an impassioned plea. And then there was a moment that has been highlighted by a lot of outlets on cross-examination from the prosecutor, because this is a difficult situation. How do you cross-examine someone who's the mother of the defendant? She obviously loves and cares for him. And I thought this is what reports have come out. And I wanted to see what you thought of this moment. The prosecutor asked, regardless of what happens, you realize he will still get to be part of your life. And she said, yes, I do. The unasked but absolutely resonating question being, well, the Metcalfs don't, obviously. Right? How did that land, do you think?
So, her whole situation on the witness stand was maybe 3 minutes, right?
Oh, wow. It was short.
The defense asked, it was super short. The defense asked her one question: do you think your son regrets his actions? And she said, I know my baby. He's very sorry for what he's done. I just, beg for leniency from the jury. And then that was pretty much her answer. Then passed the witness to the prosecution, to which he did say this right here: regardless of what happens, you realize he'll still get to be part of your life. Which, in one sense, it seemed a little bit compassionate, like you will still get to see your son. But on the other sense, it's like, the illusion to you will still get to see your son while this family doesn't. It was like it's two sides of the same coin here. A little bit of compassion, but a little bit of realization and truth. You still get to see yours while the Metcalf family doesn't get to see theirs. And that's something they brought up during their closing arguments before sentencing the prosecution. They were saying, the word community was being thrown out a lot, when he was talking about having people in the community take accountability for what they do to keep your community safe and, the community you want to live in. And he was saying that, with their decision, of course, not telling the jury what to do, but saying, you could send a message with this, to deter anyone else from even thinking about doing an act like this. And then he was like, if you're considering, a life sentence, because again, the range was 5 years to 99 years, 99, that you're coming out of prison in a box, right? And he was saying, if you're thinking about a life sentence, think about the Metcalf family. Then he looks over towards them: Jeff Metcalf, Megan Metcalf, Hunter Metcalf, all have been assigned life sentences, a life sentence of avoiding their home in their heart. And I thought that was what really landed, once before they went back in there, just under 3 hours to deliberate that sentence. That was what I took away from it. And it was a loud, very boisterous, bold point to each of them, to which, the family sitting there, arms around each other and everything like that. So it was, again, the prosecution was just on top of it throughout this whole thing. Of course, only 4 days of testimony, but every piece of it, Josh, they were on top of it.
Hey, people feel how they feel, right? Unfortunately. Fortunately or unfortunately, whatever side of the coin you fall on. Once again, this may be an opposing thought to you. I'm gonna play it. Hold on, guys. on, guys.
You're coming out of prison in a box, right? And he was saying, if you're thinking about a life sentence, think about the Metcalf family. Then he looks over towards them. Jeff Metcalf, Megan Metcalf, Hunter Metcalf, all have been assigned life sentences, a life sentence of avoiding their home in their heart. And I thought that was what really landed.
Wow.
Once before they went back in there, just under 3 hours to deliberate that sentence. That was what I took away from it. And it was a loud, very boisterous, bold point to each of them, to which, the family sitting there, arms around each other and everything like that. So it was, again, the prosecution was just on top of it throughout this whole thing. Of course, only 4 days of testimony, but every piece of it, Josh, they were on top of it.
4 days of testimony. God, that is so quick.
Well, really 3.5, because it ended kind of early on Monday when the defense rested around 2:00 that we, abruptly. So really kind of like 3.5 days. So
it was a whirlwind. I've had DUIs that have taken longer than this case did. It's just incredible how quickly we moved along. I want to read some quotes that we were able to pull from the impact statements given by the Metcalf family.
No, I will say I wasn't there for impact statements because I had to leave out and do television stuff. So
okay. Well, then I'll share these with you, and we'll both kind of react to it, because I just thought these were some of the most powerful. I mean, the sentencing hearings, and I've told this before. If trials are the most dramatic kind of real life experience you can have, then the sentencing part of a trial is just that turned up a notch, because it's just it is. Some of the most uncomfortable, intense moments I've ever had in court is during sentencing hearings. Megan Metcalf, this is Austin's mother, took the stand and didn't take the stand. She read a statement, and many of the Metcalfs were addressing Karmelo directly. And she said, "You may have just been given a sentence of 35 years. You should feel lucky because I've been sentenced to a life without my son." And it just crushing that she's saying that. And it's interesting too, because these are after the jury has already given their sentence. It's a thing, I guess, they have in Texas.
Yeah. I mean, it's like maybe they do it different here. And I just think, Josh, to the point of this this quote that she said, you have the brother Hunter. The parents obviously weren't there. They get the phone call, of course. Just a gut wrenching phone call. I can only imagine how that went. That your son's been stabbed to death. But Hunter was there.
He's never gonna erase that memory.
Never. He's gonna see his bloody dead brother in his hands for the rest of his life. Imagine he lives to be 85, 90 years old. He's always gonna see that. And during the prosecution's closing argument, they had a still image from one of those body cams where you can see, Austin laying out there while they're doing chest compressions. It's kind of like from here down. You can't really see his face, which I'm kind of glad we didn't, because to see a dying boy's face would have been kind of rough. But you have the body there, and when they had that, they had it up there for like 5 minutes, just sitting there. And I'm looking at Hunter, and that's the only time I saw him have some emotion, some outward emotion. He's just like shaking his head, and his mom's, rubbing his back, because he's looking up at his dad. He remembers that day. He was there, but this was a year and some change ago. I'm sure he tries his best not to remember it. And now here it is right in front of him. Of course, he chose to be here, and he's just reliving it over and over and over. And now he's looking at it again
for the rest of his life. Yeah.
Twin of that.
To that point, Hunter also, we didn't hear from him during trial, which was interesting. Many people thought we would, for the reason you just outlined. He was the closest person to some of those events that day. But he spoke, and he said the following: "You took a son, a brother, a friend, and my best friend from this world. You took someone from me who was supposed to be an uncle, godfather to my kids. Oh my God. Now I want everything taken from you." I mean, it's these people, it's still so raw that you can still feel the anger. There's a lot of grief, and there's still a lot of very anger too,
Yeah, it's only been a year and some change, right? Yeah. And it leaves me thinking 35 years, of course, a long time. I mean, he's eligible for parole after 17 and a half. So, I mean, that doesn't guarantee he's going to get it. But, it's to me, that seemed like a defense win, because given the circumstances that the jury had to sentence him to, they could have put him away forever. They could have, as Hunter outlined here, they could have taken everything away from him, right? But 35 years, I mean, grand scheme, 35 versus never coming back. That leads me to, how does the Metcalf family feel about that? Do they think that's too light? I'm sure they do. Because it's their son's never coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's nothing that would make them feel any better. But yeah, I'm sure that they feel it was light. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. It's just sad all around. I was speaking with somebody outside the courthouse who described it as kind of like a Shakespearean tragedy, like one of those old stories you'd read about where it's just it's You got one kid that's never coming back. You got one kid whose liberty's taken away for a long, long time, and they're just young men who had their whole lives ahead of them.
Lives forever changed for the
like that,
for the decisions of a moment. Yeah,
of a moment. Over essentially nothing, right? So it's
this is Jeff Metcalf. This is the last one I want to read here. This is Austin's father. He looked directly at Karmelo and said, "You can't even look me in the eye right now, but you can stab my effing son in the heart." And I just thought, my God, you weren't in the room for this, right?
No, I was not in the room for any of this. So this is new to me as well. And I can only imagine what it sounded like.
Heavy duty stuff. I got a few more minutes with you here. I want to do some quick thank yous, as a lot of folks have some nice stuff they want to share with you. And then I want to ask you about the reactions outside.
Outside, yeah. Get into that, yeah.
Righty then. Once again,
true when it comes to
keep running the likes up, guys. Run the likes up.
Culture is downstream of politics, meaning that leadership actually matters. And that is particularly true when it comes to race relations in the United States. The leadership of our country matters on this sort of stuff. When our leaders promote meritocracy or equal justice before law, colorblindness, not DEI, Americans tend to follow. And by contrast, when our leaders promote racial polarization, Americans also tend to follow. So let's give an example. About a year and a half ago, there's a 17-year-old teenager named Karmelo Anthony. He's black. He stabbed a 17-year-old named Austin Metcalf, who is white. He murdered him in cold blood in front of witnesses. The case was clear from literally day one. But Karmelo Anthony's family and his spokespeople began retailing a racial narrative that somehow Anthony was justified, or at least you understand why he did what he did, because he was the victim here. A victim of what? Well, maybe of the actual victim, Austin Metcalf, who allegedly threw him out of a track tent. Maybe because of racism, maybe not. Maybe because of white America more broadly. Well, none of this worked. Anthony was convicted yesterday of murder. He will see 35 years in prison, parole eligibility in 17. And there weren't any riots, no major protests, not even much of a legacy media response, because in a sane and rational universe in which law and order prevail, Americans understand that race has nothing to do with whether murder must be punished. Murder must be punished. Doesn't matter who the murderer is and who the victim is. Now, would that have happened if Kamala Harris were president? I have my doubts. Or Joe Biden. Or certainly Barack Obama. Because, I'm older than a few years old. So I'm old enough to remember the destruction of racial comedy in America when Barack Obama got directly involved in the Trayvon Martin case in 2013. That was a case in which Trayvon Martin, a young black teenager, was killed by George Zimmerman under disputed circumstances. There's a long trial about it. Again, Zimmerman had claimed, he's Hispanic, he had claimed that it was self-defense, and the prosecution tried to claim that Zimmerman had done it in cold blood. And Barack Obama got directly involved, and he said if he had a son, he would have looked like Trayvon, which of course was not true. And I remember major riots when a white cop shot a black man who had attacked him in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014. And then the entire legacy media falsified the story, claiming that the cop was racist and that Michael Brown had tried to surrender to him. Hands up, don't shoot, which never happened. And the president, again, injected himself and said that nobody in Ferguson would have made something like that up, which of course it was entirely made up. It is not a coincidence that race relations in America nosedived beginning 2013, 2014. I'm old enough to remember 2020, when the death of George Floyd, yes, almost certainly due to drug use combined with excited delirium, not police brutality, led to the most disastrous race riots in modern American history. So, if Kamala Harris were president, what would have happened after the Karmelo Anthony conviction yesterday? Would we be prepping a new round of racial recriminations over supposed systemic racism in the United States? That is the question we should be asking because, again, much of what President Trump's presidency is about, his return to power, was about avoiding the worst outcome. And this is just another example of where the worst outcome, I think, has been mitigated or avoided because Americans turned away from the race narrative that was sold by the Democrats. In order to understand how this could have gone, you have to understand exactly the fact pattern in the Karmelo Anthony case. So you have to go back about a year and a half. Austin Metcalf was a 17-year-old student, athlete, and honor student at Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas. Frisco, Texas is a very diverse town in Texas. About 46% white, about 10% black, 30-some% Hispanic. He was a linebacker and a twin brother. He was 6'1" and 213. Karmelo Anthony was a 17-year-old student athlete at Centennial High School in Frisco, where he ran track and played football. He was 5'8" and 130 pounds. The reason that we bring up the relative sizes of the people involved is because the defense tried to make a self-defense argument. The two boys did not know each other. They had no previous connections. Metcalf was unarmed at the time of his murder. So what happened is that there was a rainstorm. It delayed the track meet that day. The athletes scrambled for shelter. Anthony's school didn't have a tent at the venue. Metcalf's school did. Metcalf and his twin brother, Hunter, confronted Anthony and repeatedly asked him to leave from under their school tent. And then witnesses said that Metcalf gave Anthony light pushes and told Anthony I'm not going to fight you, bro, seeming to imply that Anthony wanted to fight him. Other witnesses said that Anthony told Metcalf, make me move, touch me, see what happens. Apparently, after Metcalf pushed Anthony in the bleachers, and again, it's unclear how hard the push was or anything like that, Anthony then pulled a 5-inch knife from his backpack and stabbed Metcalf, hitting his heart directly. So witnesses' accounts of the incident varied dramatically in intensity. They were totally inconsistent on the details, like where people were sitting or whether or not Anthony ran or walked away after the stabbing. So, murder takes place. Anthony is immediately arrested the same day for murder. This is April 2nd, 2025. And according to the arrest report, he claimed self-defense right away. He was arrested and he shouted, "I was protecting myself," unprompted by police. He also reportedly asked police whether Metcalf would survive and if his actions could be considered self-defense. When an officer mentioned that he had the alleged suspect over the radio, Anthony reportedly replied, "I'm not alleged, I did it." And here's where things started to get incredibly squirrely and controversial. The family set up respective fundraisers online. Karmelo Anthony's Give, Send, Go received donations from people who said things like, "We are defenders of our lineage," and "I hope the knife made a full recovery," and "These white people can die mad." Totally racialized. Give, Send, Go eventually had to disable the comment sections on the page because of the volume of derogatory remarks on the basis of race. You can look at the comments. Here's some of the comments on the Karmelo Anthony family Give, Send, Go. "I hope you raise $1 million. These white people can die mad like they ancestors did. Whites have been obsessed with black people for years. It's 2025. The hate is embedded into their DNA at this point. They don't know if they love us or hate us. LOL. Too bad. We don't care." In these kinds of comments, again, 64 likes. "I'm donating again after seeing the need for additional protection and expenses." That was what the family said. They said that they needed protection. "I am so glad to see him get released on bond. These crackers need to understand we are not our ancestors. They will reap what they sow. I hope the knife made a full recovery. Justice for Karmelo." And 25 likes on that one. "We are defenders of our lineage. This is America. These flat whiteness immigrants from all over the world has always been open enemies toward foundational black Americans from day one no more." Now again, there's no real allegation that the behavior by Austin Metcalf was racist in any way. Now again, right from the beginning, the Metcalf family acted with honor. Metcalf's father publicly forgave Anthony in Christian fashion and explicitly mentioned this was not a race thing. On April 14th, Anthony's bond was reduced from $1 million to $250,000, and Anthony was allowed to leave jail for house arrest with an ankle monitor. His family immediately holed up in an exclusive gated community in a $900,000 house. And they were claiming that they had limited financial means as a way of convincing the judge to release him from jail. So he's hunkered down, according to media reports, in a Frisco home located on Mercedes Lane. And his family was renting the home for $3,500 a month. So, again, is that the mark of a family that is simply seeking to get by, to rent a very expensive house in a gated community?
You got to go somewhere safe if people are threatening your life, I would assume. But let's go here, guys. I don't have much time. I got to move soon, so let's go here. Let's just get through it.
My goodness. So I want people to understand that after they railroaded him in court, what they're looking to do now is to finish the job. That's correct. Because what has recently happened is that Give, Send, Go has unpublished and removed the page of Karmelo Anthony.
Edward Ash, what up?
All right. And you know the page that has been triggering all the white ignorance and the racists because he's been raising money, and the money he has raised has actually been in almost the ballpark of what Austin Metcalf raised. Austin Metcalf had to have a GoFundMe. He had 2 GoFundMes, if I'm not mistaken. One was raised $700K, the other one was $100K. So Karmelo Anthony had one page, and he was about 680, and they were livid. They were trying to frame the page as, look at black people, they're giving to a murderer. That's what they're doing. Giving to a murderer. That's what they're doing.
People who gave to Karmelo Anthony pretrial equals supporting murderer. People who gave to Kyle Rittenhouse or Daniel Penny pretrial supporting freedom.
And this is what these demons do. They always try to frame, what God means for good, they try to frame and use it for bad. Because that's what they come here to do. The lineage of evil, to kill, steal, and destroy. That's what the scripture says. Damn. I want you to understand what this lame excuse that Give, Send, Go puts out. They go and say the reason why they, shut down the page, of course, after their heart goes out to the Metcalf family, the bullies who learned their lesson the hard way. But they go on to say that, hey, we took down the page because, its purpose is over, right? It's fulfilled. It's done. And I want you to think about, you name me what one other Give, Send, Go page that they removed because it's fulfilled its purpose. Hell, the Daniel Penny Give, Send, Go page is still up there. That trial is over? Did it fulfill its purpose? You can miss me with this nonsense. They try and frame it as if the page was exclusively about pretrial expenses. Now, if you look at the page, which you can't do now, but thank God to the internet, right? The internet's forever. But if you look at the page, they specifically say limited but not exclusive to, right? When it comes to travel expenses, when it comes to basic costs, when it comes to relocation, a litany of things. And don't tell that to the demons out there, because they're already running with a whole bunch of false narratives that have already been shown to be false. Oh, they use it on an Escalade. They use it on a house. Do you not even understand? First off, that's not true. Complete lies. But that's what they do. That's all they do is lie. You notice all they can do is lie because the truth is never in their favor. All they do is lie. But you have to think about, why do they have to relocate? If y'all are such high impulse controlled individuals, why would they have to relocate? Well, that's not true. Complete lies. But that's what they do. That's all they do is lie. You notice all they can do is lie because the truth is never in their favor. All they do is lie. But you have to think about, why do they have to relocate? If y'all are such high impulse controlled individuals, why would they have to relocate? Why? Because many of y'all are just like Austin Metcalf.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Just a bunch of bullies with low impulse control. Damn. That's what you all are. And in the end, all right, when it comes to the lineage of evil, when it comes to the demons, if you look at the scripture that they claim to profess, that they read and love, guess where everybody ends up? Just like Austin Metcalf, all right? That's exactly where they end up. They end up just where Charlie Kirk is, in the pits of hell itself, with the gnashing of teeth. So I want people to understand what is going on right now. They are trying to cripple him. And to further my point, there is nothing in Gibson Go's policy that would even allow them to do such a thing. You're telling me that Karmelo Anthony's family or whoever created the page couldn't have updated the page like, hey, we're raising money now for an appeal. Is that what you're telling me? They couldn't have edited the page and changed as far as the goal of the page? Is that what you? Of course they could have. Of course they could have. But you want to know what? Gibson Go is not a black-owned platform, all right? And when you look at Gibson Go, they are always going to cater to the lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator is the white ignorance.
But Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolytes.
And as I've said before, there are probably plenty of white people who believe Karmelo Anthony should be free, or at least should have gotten, manslaughter, or believes that the sentencing was egregious. But due to the white ignorance who are violent around them, they have to keep their mouth closed. It's a tale as old as time, bruh. There are plenty of white people who disagree with slavery, but due to the white ignorance around them, they had to keep their mouth closed because they would have been on the tree just like as far as the black person. They would have seen them as less than. That's what you have to understand. So, this is where we are. There has to come a point in time where we cannot regress the country based off of low IQ white ignorance, based off of their rage. We can't do that because then everyone suffers. They're suffering right now when it comes to the economy, when it comes to their children, when it comes to their, to their women, their inability to provide, their inability to provide for themselves, their inability of a litany of things that they're going through. So everything that they're doing right now, they think is hurting us. But in fact, they're hurting 10 times as much, but they don't care. As I said before, these people were so wicked and so evil that they were praising Karmelo Anthony being sentenced more than mourning the loss of Austin Metcalf. Damn. That's what you have to understand. Wow. That's their mindset. They will go through as many Austin Metcalfs if it means the possibility of imprisoning a black youth. They don't care about justice. I've covered stories. Kelly Thomas, they don't care about justice. Ryan Whitaker, Hunter Schafer, they don't care about justice. What they care about is if the black person suffers. That's their whole purpose in life, all right? Their whole purpose in life is to make sure that, hey, these people suffer. And, once you view it from that lens, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Because, instead of you focusing on Austin Metcalf's, Gibson Go or his GoFundMe, you have a hard-on for Karmelo Anthony's, bruh. Karmelo Anthony. And they're going to do an appeal, but this is who they are. They're a lineage of evil. They are a wicked, wicked group. And they will try and frame everything that you do as evil. It doesn't matter, all right? They constantly talk about low impulse control and you will sub 86 IQ. What did Austin do? Every accusation, as I said before, is a confession. Low impulse control, low IQ. You have to be low IQ. If someone tells you, hey, you touch me again and see what happens, I'm going to do it again. That's low IQ, low impulse control. So low impulse control that now what? What did you get for it? They think this is a win, right? They think this is a win. How is it a win when Karmelo Anthony is going to get an appeal, probably win the appeal, but even if he doesn't, Karmelo Anthony is still alive. Karmelo Anthony will be eligible for parole in his 30s. Austin Metcalf is forever gone.
He's out of line, but he's right.
How is this a win for you? But you're so hate-filled and so vile and demon-possessed that you see this as a W. You see Austin Metcalf, who's no longer with us, as a W because Karmelo Anthony is going to prison. Karmelo Anthony is still alive, and he will be alive once he comes out of prison. He will have a life to live. Austin Metcalf does not have a life to live. So as I said before, when it came to Charlie Kirk, if Charlie Kirk had spent a modicum of the energy he did lambasting black people on the white kids, he would still be alive today. Damn. If white men had spent just a modicum of energy that they use on lambasting and attacking black people and calling us all types of slurs and everything, they had spent that amount of energy on training Metcalf, Austin Metcalf, and making sure his father was training him, hey, keep your hands to yourself. Hey, mind your business. Hey, if somebody's not doing what you want them to do, go get an adult. Go get security. Go get an officer. There's no need for you to engage in a situation such that could lead to hostility or aggression. No reason for it, especially with these low IQ savages, right? But like I said, you don't care about your own. You've made that perfectly clear. And guess what? Now you have one less bully on the planet. Damn. Karmelo Anthony's still alive. So you still take the L. You still take the L. You still take the L. I hope that burns you up inside.
Opposing thoughts, guys. I told you this isn't an echo chamber. Everybody feels differently.
That burns you up inside. All you racists trying to attack this kid, trying to attack, black women covering the story. Everything you've done, you still lost. How does that feel? Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you guys think.
See what the actual similarities and what the actual differences are between these two cases. So let me tell y'all what I found. So first, let me fill you in on Kaysen's actual case. So back on May 3rd, 2022, Kaysen Allison, who was 18 at the time, was a senior at Belton High School in Texas. It was a Tuesday morning, and around 9:47 a.m., him and another friend of his walk into the boys' bathroom at the school, and by the time Kaysen left, he had stabbed his 17-year-old classmate, Joe Ramirez. Now, context as to what led up to the stabbing is that prom was 4 days earlier. And while the two of them were at a prom after party, they got into it because Joe felt like Kaysen was being aggressive toward the prom date of one of Joe's friends. So they have this verbal altercation, and Kaysen claims that Joe pulled a gun on him during this altercation. But it's worth noting that a friend testified at the trial that it wasn't Joe, it was someone else.
A friend of Allison shared today that he saw someone pull a gun on Allison at the prom after party, but it was not.
Where Kaysen suggests that the two of them should fight at a park. Joe apparently says he's not really down for the park, so the two of them plan to fight at the school, but they never lock down a time and a place. Now, before the day of the fight, multiple of Joe's friends testified that he told them he planned to seriously injure Joe.
Another close friend of Allison returned to the stand today discussing text messages between the two of them, and those texts contained things like Allison saying, "Bro, bring me a gun." Quote, he wanted Joe on life support and wanted to stomp his head in.
And then when detectives pulled Kaysen's Snapchat messages, they heard a voice recording of him telling someone, quote, "We finna catch them tomorrow, and I'm going to send him to the hospital." So that all happens in between prom and Tuesday, May 3rd. And then on Tuesday, the school day starts, and after first period, Joe and 4 of his friends go to the boys' bathroom because that is apparently something they did every day. But this time, shortly after they go to the bathroom, the school cameras catch Kaysen and a friend of his also walking into that same bathroom. Now, according to the testimony from the trial, this meetup was not planned, and Joe was actually surprised to see Kaysen in the bathroom. Multiple witnesses who were also in the bathroom at that time testified that Kaysen did not want to fight at school. He emphasized they were close to graduation and he did not want to risk that, but Joe apparently wanted to fight. In a recorded interview with detectives, Kaysen says that once the boys started taking off their backpack, he took out a knife that he had brought to school with him and said, quote, "Don't touch me or I'll stab you." At this point, a student that was also in the bathroom takes out his phone and begins recording the altercation. And on that video, he captures Joe swing on Kaysen lunge and stab Joe. Then there's a scream and the video cuts. Now, following this incident, Kaysen is caught on the cameras running out of the bathroom. He ends up making it all the way to his house. But because multiple students were witnesses, they were able to tell police and officials that Kaysen was the one who did this. So law enforcement arrives at Kaysen's house within the hour, and they find him in his bathroom on the phone telling someone he, quote, did something at school and asking them to take him to Waco, Texas, another city. Police search Kaysen's house and they find the knife that he used, and although Kaysen told them he only stabbed Joe one time, the medical examiner testified on the stand that Joe was actually stabbed 4 times.
We learned there was one large stab wound across Ramirez's chest, which caused multiple injuries to both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm.
So following this, Kaysen was charged with murder. But But during the trial, the jurors were given the option to convict him of murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide. Kaysen was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Now, for the sake of full context, there was some testimony that Joe and his friends were known to get in fights and apparently known to jump and suck only for 4 days. Karmelo and Austin Metcalf, on the other hand, and had some hostility with each other, even if only for 4 days. Karmelo and Austin Metcalf, on the other hand, had no history. They didn't go to school together and they did not know each other before that day. Next, let's talk about the planning aspect. So it's clear from the Snapchat messages that Kaysen and Joe were planning to fight. In fact, according to what was presented, Kaysen was the one who first suggested a location for the two of them to fight. And he communicated to multiple people that he planned on seriously injuring Joe through this fight. As far as planning on Karmelo's hand, there was no evidence presented in his trial that there were any communications or planning involved indicating that he was looking for this fight. Now, they both did have knives on them on the day of the incident that they brought to school grounds, but based on the evidence that was presented, Kaysen communicated his intention on using that knife, and there was no evidence presented that showed Karmelo communicated his intent with the knife. Okay, next, let's talk about the threat or warning that both of the defendants gave to their victims. Kaysen told detectives in his recorded interview that he told Joe prior to stabbing him, quote, "Don't touch me or I'm going to stab you." And that has a lot of similarity to what Karmelo told Austin before he stabbed him, which was, quote, "Touch me and see what happens." Okay, now let's talk about level of force. In Kaysen's case, there was video evidence that showed Joe punched him. And during the trial, there was testimony that that punch resulted in Kaysen having a closed head injury. And there was also claim from people on the witness stand that when they were all in the bathroom, Joe and his friends locked the bathroom door to prevent Kaysen and his friend from leaving. But that claim was never proven. It was just something somebody said on the stand. Now, in Karmelo's case, on the other hand, there was never any consistent testimony about how hard Austin touched Karmelo before Karmelo stabbed him. Someone said it was a push. Someone said it was a two-handed push. Other people said it was a shove, and one person even said it was a lineman move. Cases is that the victims in both cases committed the first assault or unlawful touch. Next, let's talk about what happened after the stabbings. So in Kaysen's case, he left the school premises, went to his house, and officers caught him on the phone trying to get a ride out of the city. Karmelo, on the other hand, did leave the tent where this incident happened, but he was stopped by a coach where he remained on scene until police came. Okay, and now the last comparison I've noted has to do with the verdict. So in both cases, jurors had the option to convict the defendants of murder or manslaughter. But in Kaysen's case, they were also given the option of this criminal negligent homicide.
It's the last video, y'all. Got to wrap it up. I appreciate y'all. Y'all already know how I rock out. I just got a phone call. I got to go handle something real quick. So I'm going to play this video and I'm going to get up out of here. Y'all usually know we do the long outro, show all kind of love. I can't do that today. Y'all don't hold it against me. Charge it to my circumstances, not my heart.
I knew you were hurt yesterday. One, I heard it in your voice, and I like to think I know you very well. And I've never heard you speechless. So yesterday, talking to me, you were speechless, and you just couldn't find the words, so I knew you were hurt.
I've been lying to that kid for a whole year straight, every day, sending him. When I saw all jewelry, I called that kid's dad, and I said, "You can't make me believe them people gonna be cold. You can't make me believe 12 people's hearts is all cold."
That's what it was for me. When I seen that there wasn't a black person on jury, I knew then what we would already be going through.
I didn't believe those white people would do that. Why? Because I believe God touches white people. I believe God touches white people's hearts. I thought white people had a connection with God, and some school teacher on the jury would know that this kid's past cannot even line up to what we see. But what I know people did, they wouldn't let the element of fear come into the trial. Why? They wouldn't let no children talk about how menacing Austin and Hunter was. These two children, they were boys, like Akeem Vaughn at the schools. They was notorious bullies. That's why the kid never stood up to him. They was afraid of him. He stayed sitting down, a sign of submission and a sign of being subservient. He never stood up to the white man. He stayed sitting down in fear. See, them white boys had got suspended a week earlier. That's why the reports say Karmelo got suspended and he wasn't supposed to be under the tent. Karmelo mom produced a picture in trial when Karmelo was up under the same tent with the same students just a week prior. You know why Austin and Metcalf wasn't in the picture? Because they were suspended. They were the ones suspended. So when they showed up, they saw a kid that they hadn't seen up under the tent. And they went to bullying. This wasn't about racism.
It was like fresh blood to them.
Man, he's a new black kid, for one. He's quiet, he stand out, and he's with another mixed black kid. A mulatto. They made the mulatto boy change his statement. So man, I'm putting up $75,000, man. Man, white people can't be that cold. I don't believe,
and that's why I tell you, I know they are. Like, people don't believe, man, the white people in entertainment are the most brutal, dog. And I deal with them every day.
Yeah.
I lunch with them, I see them, and I know they don't give a shit about their own family, their own mom. So I know how brutal they are.
White folks have a history and a track record of covering up the truth. We know that by historical accounts. Yep. But I wouldn't believe, I couldn't believe, homie, that people. I used to have a saying, I used to make a joke. When I go outside and it's really cold, I said, it's colder than an all-white jewelry out here. And I heard them say one time, it got to be cold in them, all-white jewelry is heartless. And I said, nigga, heart. I said, this is what I told nigga. I said, it ain't a heart in a man or woman's body that God can't penetrate. And I'm starting to believe what Malcolm X used to preach, that white people are devils. Because devils, they are. Man, listen.
Just think about it, dog.
They got to be, homie. They got to be.
Every place they touch, they can pillage. And
man, they got to be devils, homie.
85% of whatever land they land on.
Yeah. Well, this is what, hey, they seem to lack compassion. What people seem to lack real human compassion. That's why they have so much love for animals. What people have love for animals, they don't have love for humans. They tolerate humans, but they love dogs. What people won't let a black baby kiss it in the mouth, but they'll let a stray dog lick it.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to think people don't have a real human connection for them to sit and look at a kid who have no history. What they did was, I put my homeboy is the judge. The DA is my best friend. The victim's dad is my classmate, high school drinking buddy. This was a buddy system.
Yeah.
But just think about
a good old buddy system.
So Karmelo Anthony, this is a modern day Emmett Till kind of situation.
Yeah. I bet you their families go back generations, not just these guys.
They all went to the same church. They all went to the same church, including the Karmelo Anthony family. All of them used to go to the same church. This is why I don't go to white churches. This is why I won't never sit under pastor. Because white people only love God when it's convenient out of white guilt. Yeah. They vote with his heart. So let me just say this. That black kid, from every step of this whole process, saw faces like they used to do when he got hung. He never saw black faces. And I'm saying, God, but they were in the beginning. This is what they wouldn't let come out in court. Every police officer that was there to arrest that kid, every school teacher that was there, they cried with the Austin family, but they said just as equal tears for Karmelo because they know he's a good kid.
All right, y'all. I hate to cut it so short. I hate to end it so abrupt. Y'all know I always show love to the chat. Y'all know I always salute y'all and shout y'all out. I don't have the time today, man. Bear with me. I appreciate y'all for rocking out. I got to cut this one short, y'all. Like my bro said, I reserve the right to be wrong. That's only room for human error. And like I say, I identify as a multimillionaire. If they got a bathroom, they got to give us a cash register. Other than that, I thank y'all. Y'all go out there. Don't move off emotion. Don't let nobody get a rise out of you. Move with logic. When you present yourself, always present yourself with class and dignity. No matter what, they're going to try to get a rise out of you. They're going to try to make you fall into a certain category. Be better than what they expect from you. I'm talking about that goes for everybody, man. You know, I'm talking about we ain't got to love each other. We ain't got to love each other. We ain't got to like each other. We just got to be able to coexist. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all for rocking out the entirety of this time. This is the Rumonati Network, man. We out.